So what I was envisioning for this is just us talking about trailers in general and what we're excited about for this upcoming season.
Hi, I'm Arielle Nissenblatt, and that voice you just heard, that is my co-host, Tim Villegas. And this is Trailer Park, the podcast trailer podcast. You have just tuned into a bonus episode. Welcome to the show. We've got an unscripted conversation for you today about what we're looking forward to for season 2 of the show, about some of our sponsors that have already signed on, about the utility of podcast trailers and whether or not we walk the walk when it comes to listening to them and also creating them, and a little bit about how we are going to be approaching ratings and reviews for season 2 of the show. And there's some other fun stuff in there too, so let's get to it. Take it away, Tim.
So a lot of things have been rolling around in my brain, and I keep coming back to, do people realize the power of trailers? And also in my own discovery of podcasts, do I actually listen to trailers? Like, I understand the importance of trailers, but to be honest, I don't always listen to a trailer before I listen to a podcast. And usually it's because somebody has recommended the podcast to me and I just dive right in.
Got it.
You know, whatever the entry point is. What about you?
I listen to trailers.
Always?
I think it depends if the show is a serialized show. If it's a serialized show, I'm always listening to the trailer.
Okay.
Because I'm testing if I actually want to listen to it. I really am using it for the reasons that we discuss why trailers are so important. If it's a history podcast where each episode focuses on a different time period throughout history, I don't really listen to the trailer because I know that the trailer is, I just don't feel like I need it in that situation. But if it's a serialized show, if it's an investigative show, I love the trailer. But you bring up a good point. You know, do we walk the trailer walk?
Well, I mean, I must confess that I don't. But have I made trailers for my podcast? Yes. Has a trailer given me enough information to say, yes, I am going to listen? Yes. Has a trailer put me off? Yes.
That's the point, you know? Trailers don't always, I mean, that's the thing. They're going to weed people out, but so is your audio, you know? So like maybe they didn't have a trailer, you'd be put off by the first episode, you know? I don't think the trailer put you off. I think the person, the concept, the whatever put you off from listening to the rest of that show.
Well, if the trailer is bad, or if the trailer isn't representative of what the show is about, then I'm not even going to get to your episode. I think that's the majority of cases. If I do listen to a trailer, I'm just like, nope, I move along. There's so many podcasts.
There's so many.
The one thing I haven't done, which I've wanted to do, and in theory it sounds nice, is to queue up a bunch of trailers, like create a playlist and be like, okay, these are the things that I'm interested in, you know, because I subscribe to like hundreds of podcasts, you know, which is probably not the best way to do it. But anytime someone recommends something, or I read, you know, earbuds, or I, you know, read a newsletter or whatever, and I just add it to like my queue.
I do too.
And so then there's a few different ways I go about it. Sometimes I'll just go to new episodes and then like scroll and be like, okay, what looks good? Or I'll go through the podcasts I've actually subscribed to and be like, oh yeah, I remember I added that. And then I go in, and that's when, okay, I'll listen to the trailer, or I'll just jump right in.
Yeah, I'm curious about how our listeners tend to consume trailers. If they listen to them as sort of an on-ramp for a podcast that they might be listening to, or if they are trailer heads like me who are just curious about the production quality, the production value of a trailer. And I think you brought this up before. I always think it's fascinating. Does the trailer match the tone, match the scope of the quality of the show? If you had budget only to pay for a fancy trailer, and then that budget did not extend to the rest of the production, that's really going to turn a lot of people off. The difference between the trailer and the show might be enough for somebody to say, you know what, like they tricked me in the trailer and I don't want to listen to the show now.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say, though, is that especially for a serialized show, and for you, what you mean, though, is like a narrative series, or like a series that has like a beginning and an end? Or like, are you talking about just ones that run in seasons?
I don't even know if I can really uniformly say what makes me listen or not listen to a trailer. I can say I tend to be scrolling around on Pocket Cast, see some cover art that intrigues me, see a title that intrigues me, and I want to know if that show is worth my time, so I go and I listen to the trailer for the story. Is the title reflective of what is going to happen within the show? And if I am following it all the way through, I like the title, I like the cover art, I then like the trailer, I am intrigued by the subject matter within the trailer, I'm going to hit play on the first episode of the show.
Do you just listen until you are bored? Or do you like give it the whole episode?
I don't tend to give everything the whole episode. And that's because I listen to a ton of podcasts. It's my job to be listening to a ton of podcasts. I think I've listened to enough podcasts at this point to know what I'm interested in and what I'm not interested in. And of course I can be surprised, but I know pretty much early on if the subject matter is going to be intriguing to me. And that's not to say, like, I've listened to shows that don't have the best production value or aren't checking all my boxes, but because they check some of those boxes and I need to be learning about X, Y, and Z, I might be willing to listen.
Yeah. I listen to podcasts of people I know or I've interacted with too. So even if it's a short interaction on social media and I don't like know the person in real life, but I do know of the person, I will give the show a chance just based on the interaction.
Yeah.
I don't always finish or I don't always actually subscribe, but I'll listen.
You're so kind. You're a good podcast friend.
Well, thanks. Well, I'm not also I think I dabble in the podcast industry, but I'm definitely not.
You more than dabble. Don't you make a podcast about podcast trailers? If I'm not mistaken.
Okay, guilty as charged.
Don't you make a podcast for the Maryland Coalition for Inclusive Education?
Dang, yes.
I'm good.
I make 2 podcasts, actually.
I'm a good podcast friend.
You are a good thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I more than dabble. It's difficult because, we all have limited time. And I think trailers are a great way, in theory, to weed out what you want to listen to and what you don't want to listen to. But more often than not, I am scrolling through my subscribed podcasts, and especially like in the last, we don't have to talk about world events necessarily, but like,
oh, why not? Come on, let's make some grand political statements.
No, thanks. But I am looking for information. So like, let's say there is a world event, or let's say there's some hot topic.
Couldn't
right?
Be. Sure.
I think people are more apt to search for keywords and stuff. So that's a whole other thing about podcast discovery.
Yeah. I mean, I've been using Pocket Cast's trending right now to figure out what I should be listening to, because there is a world event going on right now at the time that we are recording this. Listeners, you can guess what that world event is depending on when this episode comes out. Choose your own world event. And yeah, a lot of podcasts have been talking about this world event. And because of that, I've definitely been tuning into those trending episodes to hear what these big shows are talking about, right? And some I agree with, some I don't agree with, but I'm listening to all of them, to a lot of them, because I'm curious about how different people are covering this world event, choose your own adventure world event that you would like to place into your brain right now.
I think I have Pocket Cast on my phone, but I never use it.
What do you use?
Spotify.
You're a Spotify boy. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I'm like basic. I love music and I listen to music all the time. So I like to have everything in one place so that I'm not like going back and forth between apps. But you bring up a good point about having like some sort of pulse on what is happening, like trending. And I don't think Spotify does a great job of that.
I don't know enough about Spotify.
For podcasts, for music, for sure, because it's always like this new release happened, and then you subscribe to artists and then they push, there's push notifications and stuff like that. And maybe they'll get better about that with podcasts, but yeah, so Pocket Cast.
I think they're trending updates once a day. So that's a pretty cool way to stay on top of who's covering what.
So what are you excited about for season 2 of Trailer Park?
We are featuring more trailers, number 1. Number 2, we have some really cool sponsors that are already lining up, and I'm excited to genuinely endorse those sponsors to our listeners. You'll find out who they are shortly. I am excited to play around with Descript more. Last time I made my initial cuts on Audacity and then brought them into Descript, but now I know how to use Descript because I now work for Descript. So we can work together very collaboratively there, and that's pretty fun. What else am I excited for? We've gotten some incredible reception to season 1 and to the bonus episodes that we put out after season 1. I talk to people all the time who have found Trailer Park, and they refer to specific episodes that we released, and I am amazed at that. It's really great, and I think that this podcast is a utility for a lot of people, whether they're creators or listeners, and I have enjoyed the ride that it has taken us on. What about you?
For sure. I think you become a better podcaster when you make a podcast, for sure. But when you also analyze and kind of deconstruct and then think about what you would do differently, that thinking, especially in public, I think not only helps everyone else, but it helps us, become better producers and better writers.
So I like this episode because it's sort of behind the scenes. We arrived onto this SquadCast session and you just said, Arielle, hit record and we'll see what happens, And we ended up having a pretty chill conversation. I think listeners will notice that my voice it's not like in the typical hosty kind of voice that I usually use, which is like, and now we're going to do this and then we're going to do that. So I think it's fun to sort of pull back the curtain and let folks in on this conversation that is both, I think, helpful for listeners, but also helpful for us to plan season 2.
Right, exactly. And get excited because we have some excellent trailers, high production value, really creative topics from diverse voices. So I'm really excited.
Me too. More to come. Oh, and shout out to Veronica Montez, who we hired to help us put everything together for season 2. She's been really great at organizing. I am not an organized girly. I've never claimed to be, and she is. And for that, I say thank you.
Thank God for Veronica. All right. Excellent.
So listeners, first of all, we'd love to know what you think of trailers, how you utilize trailers in your discovery process, but also in your creative process. Do let us know. I want to use our ratings and reviews a little bit differently in season 2. I think a lot of folks, when they are podcast creators, leave us a rating and review. Leave us a rating and review. It lets us know what you think of the show. That's really great. I would like to use it sort of as a message board. So if you have a comment on what I'm saying, please reply to us via Apple's reviews. That would be a really cool way for us to stay in touch. So let us know in your review how you use trailers. Do you use trailers to discover podcasts? Do you listen to the trailer for every podcast that you're considering listening to? Let us know as a review. That'd be a cool way to play around with that.
You're not supposed to have like multiple calls to action, right? But
let's break the rules.
When have we cared about the rules, Arielle?
Nah.
What about using the poll feature in Spotify? Because that is something.
I love that.
You know who does that really well is Science Versus. Number 1 is a fantastic podcast if you don't know already. But 2, they always have a poll, and it's quite interesting. So I think we should put some sort of poll about people listen to trailers, right? Just something simple.
Yeah. Done.
Okay. Great.
Done. Love that. Cool. All right, Tim. Peace out. See you in a minute when we stop hitting record, and then we'll discuss more. And listeners, we will catch you at the trailer park.
All right. Happy trails.
Thank you for listening. Here are some quick credits. Gotta credit ourselves, hosted by Arielle Nissenblatt and Tim Villegas. We record on SquadCast.fm and we edit in Descript, and we are hosted on OSHA. Bye.